Over 3,200 miles of Great Lakes shoreline embraces Michigan within the world's largest freshwater supply. Protecting, revitalizing, and supporting our precious coastal region requires a team of dedicated individuals and crucial funding to get them on their way. One prehistoric fish has Jimmy Rhodes testing out his sea legs to bring us this story.
On any given day at the School of Natural Resources and Environment, you'll find Elizabeth Laporte and her staff coordinating efforts to promote the Michigan Sea Grant. This cooperative program of the University of Michigan and Michigan State University helps protect the ecosystem and heritage of our nation's Great Lakes. One fish that survived through millennia is key to the lake's future. Elizabeth, one of the Sea Grants initiatives focuses on sturgeon, but there's a lot of different kinds of fish in the lake. Why should this one kind of fish matter so much?
I think the whole biodiversity issue, we're still struggling to understand, and I think it's a struggle for us to communicate that to the public. But if we lost a fish like lake whitefish, that's a fish that most people understand and can relate to. That's on our plates. That's a part of our culture. That's a part of who we are in Michigan and throughout the Great Lakes. Prehistoric fish like Lake Sturgeon fit into our whole diversity and why we celebrate diversity and why we want to protect diversity.
I'm going to be heading out to the lake in a few minutes and pick up the boat.
In an effort to protect marine diversity, Professor Jim Diana, director of the Michigan Sea Grant, targets Lake St. Clair, where students and Sea Grant partners track the spawning habits of native fish.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will be setting hook lines really to try to catch adult sturgeon. And that's a part of what we're doing for the spawning fish.
How do you involve students in this work, and what does the experience do for them in both their education and in their careers?
Natural Resources and Environment, in our undergraduate and graduate curriculum, we have field efforts as part of what they do in their labs, and we force them to learn to identify organisms and understand their life histories, because we think that's important still.
Yeah, it seems kind of old school.
It is old school.
There's this real kind of scientific theoretical part, but they're out, as you say, on the water. They got to be safe. They got to know how to run a boat, run a line.
That's my hardest part as a faculty member, is finding students who both intellectually and physically can do the work.
I like doing lab work as well, but I think that if you can get kind of a meld of the two, so you can have your lab experiments to get the more, like kind of analytic question answered, and then be able to actually get out in the field and see what's there and really get the real life aspect of it and meld those two together. I think it's great. So I absolutely love field work.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service teams up with Professor Diana on the St. Clair River. Today's mission, tracking the sturgeon population.
When you're interfacing with the Sea Grant, what is the focus?
Today we're going to be going out on the water and trying to collect lake sturgeon. The lake sturgeon is a threatened fish species in the state of Michigan. It's not federally listed, but our goal in working with lake sturgeon is to try to make sure that it doesn't become federally listed.
But collaboration is kind of in your mission statement, right from the get-go?
Yeah, everybody works together for the common goal to protect the resource. So one of the things that is a good indicator of our success or how the population is doing is looking at the young of the year juvenile fish.
With the set lines in place for over 24 hours, the crew hopes to bring in sturgeon for sampling.
If he starts pulling really hard, I'll let you.
Okay.
It's kind of like fishing, yeah. Oh, it's the first hook. We got one, Justin.
Okay. We'll just do the old tie-off method here, okay, guys?
Okay.
Once we get it ready. Good.
Wow, those things are huge.
Oh, this is a small one. 110 pounds is our max.
First of all, why sturgeon? Is there something special about sturgeon? Are they an indicator of the health of an environment?
Absolutely. They're very long-lived fish. They can live up to 100 years. And so as a result, the fish we're seeing now, the big fish, are actually fish that survived through all the pollution and all those issues back in the early 1950s, 1940s. And there's something special about a fish that made it through that, in my mind. Right. It was a very important fish commercially for groups like Native Americans and even early Americans.
What do the universities bring to your department that makes everything better?
The universities provide a lot to our department, to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We have a lot of expertise in lake sturgeon research, but in some areas we might not know as much about the resource that we're interested in, and through collaborating with the University of Michigan and some of the other schools, they provide us with expertise in certain areas that we're lacking.
After the physical measurements are recorded, the fish gets its very own identification tag. Now, all the Sea Grant partners can access this information.
And it also has our address and phone number on it so they can call us.
Curious about today's catch, students take a quick look before they head downriver to their research site. One very special need of the fish came as a surprise.
He looks super excited. Do you think I should burp him?
I have a couple of kids. I've burped babies. You're going to burp a fish?
Yeah, so they have a gas bladder, and when they're down on the bottom, it's compressed by the pressure of the water.
Okay.
When we bring them up, it expands. and
Just
the
like
fish,
a scuba diver has to keep exhaling on the way up. Okay.
So the fish becomes unbuoyant. They no longer can like dive anymore.
Okay, all right. Well, how do you burp a fish? So I didn't know the fish could play the pull my finger game, but apparently pull my fin. Well, now that I'm bonding with the fish, can you add something to the database? Give it a name. Let's name him Jimmy Jr. How about that?
This guy's ready to go.
Oh, there he goes. He looks perfectly fine.
Yep.
Good job.
Are you getting many fish?
In the wetlands, students collect samples of smaller fish.
Oh, not a lot, huh?
These wetlands are important for the young fish to survive. So even if you spawn, if you can't get good places for young fish to survive, you still don't have an addition. And so you need
that's
the
how
whole
these two
system.
environments are connected. You need the rocky area for the spawning, but then they go into these marshy areas like we're seeing behind you.
Yep. We did a lot to try to get rid of sturgeon, and now it's our time to try to bring them back.
You're not going to handle these much smaller species the same way you were working with the sturgeon, though, right? They're not going to get tagged?
No, they won't get pit tags. They will get measured and identified and then released.
So it's still part of a kind of a demographic census, so to speak?
Right. Getting some idea of the size distribution of the population that's here. The information we collect on this connecting channel probably applies to the Niagara River, the St. Mary's River, the St. Lawrence River. Those are all very similar systems. They all have some sturgeon populations.
It's really different than being in a classroom or in a book or even in a lab.
Yeah. Even with identifying fish, I can look through a fish book all day, but I have to actually go out and hold the fish and look at it because they inevitably look so much different live.
And Matthew, you're coming from out of state. So how did you find yourself on this project?
Never been to the Midwest. My background is in wetlands, and so I was looking for something aquatic, something hopefully fieldwork based, because that's the real fun stuff when it comes to biology.
What has your experience been working with Professor Diana?
He's a really nice guy, and I learned a lot from him, how to be a good field assistant.
We've got about 20% of the world's fresh water right here in this system, and we need to take care of it because it's going to be important when water becomes more scarce. And if its quality degrades, that degrades its ability to supply humans.
Jim Diana has a history of being involved as a fisheries researcher for the last 30 or so years. So he's done a great job for us as our program director, reaching out to legislators, trying to promote partnerships with other organizations.
How do you convince people that you're actually working when you spend all day fishing?
My mom never believed I worked, so it doesn't matter to me what they think from that point of view. It matters, I guess, more to me what my students think and whether they think we're actually getting somewhere in the world.